But here's good news on immigration, Rob.
Oh.
The National Association of Evangelicals. Now, I want to say something about evangelicals and what the word evangelical means. There's a lot of kinds of evangelicals, a lot of people who claim the name. There is one group that has called themselves since 1948 the National Association of Evangelicals. Back when the charismatic and Pentecostals like Paula White and Lance Warnow and all the others would have nothing to do with evangelicals because they were charismatics or Pentecostals. When the fundamentalist Baptists would say nothing in connection to the evangelicals because they were fundamentalists or they were Baptists. Now they've all co-opted the name evangelical. But about 1/3 of those evangelicals that we talk about in this country are part of the brand, part of the community, part of the vibe, part of the ecosystem that is the National Association of Evangelicals. Their magazine came out this week. I'm on the mailing list because I remain a card-carrying, dues-paying member of the National Association of Evangelicals. And when someone tries to tell me that I'm not one, I'm like, I pay my dues.
Out of your charity?
No, actually out of my own pocketbook, which is about $15 a year. But they put out a magazine this week, and the theme of the magazine, I think it's their monthly or maybe every other month magazine. The theme of the magazine is A Church for the Stranger, Biblical Mandates for the Church's Role in Immigration. And I thank them and commend them for this. The center of evangelicals, not the fringy evangelicals, not the in name only evangelicals, the center evangelicals have always said we disagree with MAGA Christianity and their view of immigrants. And they put together a beautiful piece. Inside this piece, they have a story about evangelical leaders taking people to the border, to encounter the border, something we've made a whole documentary about, matters a lot to us, stood in the very places we stood with some of the organizations we've worked with. They're going to the border. They care about these issues. They have a whole article in here about what's behind the headlines. What are we not being told? And it argues for a landscape understanding of immigration that puts MAGA in retreat. So if you are an evangelical, if you know evangelicals, tell them this is going on. And if they want to say, well, those people aren't real evangelicals, go ahead and just let them keep putting themselves in a smaller and smaller religious sect of the immigrant-hating evangelicals. They have an article in here of the call for compassion. So if you want to say, well, the government can be cruel, but me as an evangelical or as a leader or as a church, we need to show compassion. At some point, your compassion will fatigue when you realize that the reason you have to show compassion is because the cruelty of the Trump administration. The Trump administration, by the way, Rob, which will have its ICE agents shoot pepper balls into the face of clergy members. You want to talk about Christianity being under attack? Federal agents firing paintball and smoke bombs and pepper balls into the faces and the heads of clergy members.
Yep.
Can you imagine if the Obama administration had had anybody in their world fire a weapon at a clergy member? But there's crickets and silence from MAGA Christianity about this. Just going to finish this, and then we can chat about it. They also talk about, and this is from the head of the National Association of Evangelicals. He always has a little bit at the back saying we need to remember why we are an immigrant people overall, as religious people and as Americans. It's beautiful. I'm so glad they did it. I'm glad they've highlighted these voices. They've highlighted a bunch of voices of people we know, and it matters. And if you go onto their website, National Association of Evangelicals.com.
Really? They're .com, not .org?
.org. Both of them take you there, but then it takes you to the .org. The first thing you're going to see is a chance to sign a petition calling for the federal government to return the money that it was being spent through USAID. Evangelicals opposing the Trump administration on its spending around the world. You can sign yourself onto the petition. Now, look, not everything inside the National Association of Evangelicals perspective is something I agree with. Of course not. I don't agree with none of us agree with everything of everything. We don't agree with our own previous text messages we sent 5 years ago. I mean, for the love, you don't have to find perfect harmony to join in solidarity. They're right about this. We're right about this. MAGA Christianity and the Trump administration is wrong. And we need to get out and say it every single day.